I worked day and night. My hands ached from long shifts, my back bent under the weight of endless hours, but I told myself it was worth it, because I was building a life for us. Every dollar I earned went straight into bills, rent, groceries, anything to make sure she was comfortable. But comfort was never enough. When I came home late one evening, sweat soaking my shirt, she was sitting on the couch, laughing loudly with her friends. Glasses of wine scattered across the table, music blaring from her phone. They barely noticed me except for her, who looked straight at me with a smirk. "There he is," she said, raising her glass. "The man who works himself to death for nothing." Her friends laughed. My face burned. I tried to swallow the humiliation, tried to remind myself she was joking. But then she leaned back, her smile sharp, and said it again, this time slower, cutting, deliberate. "You're useless." The room roared with laughter, but all I could hear was that word, echoing in my head. Useless. After everything I had given, after every sleepless night, every hour I had poured into keeping us afloat, that was what I was to her. I looked at her, waiting for her to soften, to say she didn't mean it. But she only sipped her wine, her eyes cold, her lips curved in victory. And my heart sank with the realization. She didn't just say it for them. She believed it. Her laughter didn't stop that night. Long after her friends left, their perfume lingering in the living room, she still smiled at me like she had won something. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Why would you say that?" "In front of them." She shrugged, unbothered, scrolling through her phone. "Because it's true." The words hit harder than the first time. I stood there, my hands shaking, the exhaustion from work crushing me, and yet she didn't even glance up. The days that followed only grew worse. Every morning, I dragged myself out of bed before dawn, leaving quietly so she could sleep. Every night, I returned with aching muscles, hoping maybe this time she'd notice how hard I tried. Instead, I was greeted by her voice on the phone with friends, her laughter filling the apartment, her eyes sharp whenever they landed on me. "You should have made more by now," she sneered one evening, tossing a stack of bills on the table. "Other men provide better." "What's your excuse?" I bit my tongue so hard it nearly bled. My hours at work had doubled. I skipped meals just to save a little more. But none of it mattered. To her, I was a failure the moment I walked through the door. When guests came over, it became worse. She treated me like a prop in her performance. "He's tired," she'd tell them with a smirk. "Always tired. That's all he's good at." Her friends laughed, sipping wine, whispering behind their hands. I sat in silence, the humiliation burning into me. One afternoon, after another long shift, I walked in carrying groceries. She sat with her friends again, their voices echoing off the walls. I set the bags on the counter, sweat dripping down my face. Before I could even sit, she waved at me dismissively. "Put those away. You're in the way." I froze. One of her friends giggled. Another whispered something that made them all laugh. My chest tightened. I wanted to scream, to throw the bags down, to tell them how hard I worked just to keep this roof over our heads. But when I turned to her, her eyes were daring me, challenging me. As if she wanted me to snap so she could laugh harder. So I stayed silent. But inside something was breaking. At night, I lay awake listening to her texts buzzing, her laughter spilling into the dark. I wondered if she even remembered who I was before all this. The man she had once chosen, once smiled at, once said she loved. Or maybe that was a lie too. One evening I finally tried again. I sat across from her at the table, my voice low, almost pleading. "I'm doing my best. Why do you keep calling me useless?" She looked at me like I was nothing. "Because you are." The words cut deeper than any blade. It wasn't anger in her tone. It wasn't frustration. It was conviction. She believed it. She wanted me to believe it too. And for a while I almost did. But as I sat there staring at the woman who mocked me, something inside me shifted. Her cruelty was no longer just words, it was a cage. A cage she had locked me in with her laughter, her disdain, her endless reminders that I would never be enough. But a cage can only hold someone for so long before the bars begin to rust. And in the silence that followed, I felt it, the first crack. I wasn't useless. I was broken. And one day soon I would find the strength to put myself back together, with or without her. Her words didn't fade with time. They grew sharper, heavier, like stones she hurled at me day after day. Useless. She said it so often that it began to echo even when she wasn't speaking. I would hear it in the hum of machines at work, in the silence of the bus ride home, in the scrape of my own shoes on the pavement. I tried to fight it with proof. I picked up extra shifts, came home later, carrying heavier bags of groceries, paying bills the moment they arrived. I left my own needs behind. No new clothes, no outings, no small comforts. Everything I had went into making her life easier. But no matter how much I did, she always found a way to twist it. "You're never home," she snapped one night. "What kind of husband leaves his wife alone all day?" When I reminded her I was working to keep us afloat, she rolled her eyes. "Excuses. Other men work and still know how to take care of their wives. You can't even do the basics." Another night I came home exhausted, shoulders aching, arms trembling from carrying boxes all day. She was with her friends again, their laughter spilling into the hall before I even opened the door. I stepped inside quietly, hoping to slip past them. But she noticed. "There he is," she announced, her voice loud and mocking. "My project." Her friends laughed, raising their glasses. One of them whispered, "Still useless," and she nodded without hesitation. "Always." The laughter cut through me like knives. My vision blurred, not from tears but from shame so heavy it made the room spin. I wanted to shout, to tell them how hard I worked, how much I sacrificed, but the words died in my throat. Because I realized something. Even if I shouted, they wouldn't hear me. They only listened to her. When the guests left, I confronted her again. My voice trembled, but I forced the words out. "Why do you humiliate me like this? Why do you need to make me small in front of everyone?" She leaned back on the couch, smirking. "Because you make it too easy. You are small. And the sooner you accept it, the better for both of us." That night I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, her words swirling around me, crushing the air from my lungs. For years I believed that if I worked harder, if I gave more, she would finally see my worth. But now I understood. Her cruelty wasn't about what I did. It was about who she chose to be. She thrived on my silence. She grew stronger every time I lowered my head. She enjoyed watching me drown in shame because it reminded her she was above me. The breaking point came one evening when she threw a dinner party. I had worked 14 hours that day, barely able to stand, but still I came home early to help set the table, light candles, pour drinks. Her friends arrived, dressed sharp, smelling of perfume and expensive cologne. I served them quietly, retreating to the kitchen when I could, trying to avoid being noticed. But she noticed. She always did. "Look at him," she said suddenly, gesturing toward me with her glass of wine. "Working like a waiter in his own house." The guests laughed. My chest tightened. Then she leaned forward, her voice louder. "He tries so hard, bless him, but honestly, what has he ever achieved? Nothing. Completely useless." The table erupted in laughter again. Some looked uncomfortable, others amused, but no one spoke up. And my husband, the man who gave everything, sat frozen, his hands gripping the chair so tightly the wood creaked, but still silent. In that moment I felt something inside me break. Not like glass shattering but like chains snapping. I looked around at the faces, the laughter, her smug smile. I realized I could spend the rest of my life breaking my back, pouring everything I had into this house, this marriage, this woman, and still she would call me useless. Because she didn't want a partner. She wanted someone to crush. When the guests left, the apartment finally quiet, she turned to me, still smirking. "Why the long face? It's just a joke." I stared at her, my voice low, almost too quiet to hear. "It's not a joke. It's who you are." Her smile faltered just for a second. And in that second I knew. Her cruelty had reached its peak. My breaking point had arrived. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't imagine, was that I wouldn't break the way she wanted. I wouldn't crumble. I would rise. The night after the dinner party, the silence in our home was different. It wasn't heavy with shame anymore. It was sharp, focused, almost electric. I sat alone at the kitchen table long after she had gone to bed, staring at my rough hands, the veins swollen from years of labor. For so long I believed her words. Useless. She had repeated it enough times to make me carry it like a second name. But looking at those hands, I realized something. These hands had paid every bill. These hands had kept food on the table, a roof over our heads, lights in every room. These hands had built the life she sat so comfortably in. I wasn't useless. I was the foundation. And she had mistaken my silence for weakness. The next day, I returned home earlier than usual. She was already there, laughing loudly on the phone with a friend, her words dripping with mockery. "Oh, don't worry, he doesn't mind. He's too busy being a ghost in his own house." She saw me standing there and smirked. Speak of the devil. See? Always late, always tired, always. Enough. My voice cut through the room like a blade. She froze mid-sentence, lowering the phone. For the first time my tone startled her. "What did you say?" she asked, narrowing her eyes. I stepped forward slowly, each word deliberate. "Enough. No more laughter at my expense. No more calling me useless. No more pretending I'm invisible while I carry this entire life on my back." She scoffed, trying to regain control. "Oh, please. You're being dramatic. You think one speech changes anything?" I shook my head. "No. One choice does." I pulled my jacket from the chair and grabbed the envelope I had hidden there. Proof of the savings I had been quietly setting aside. Years of extra shifts, unspent money, scraped together in silence. She had called me useless, but while she wasted nights mocking me, I had been building an escape. Her eyes flicked to the envelope, her smirk faltering. "What's that?" "My way out," I said evenly. She laughed, but it was thinner now, brittle around the edges. "You won't leave. You wouldn't survive without me." I stepped closer, meeting her eyes with a steadiness she had never seen in me before. "No. You wouldn't survive without me. And deep down you know it." Her face twisted, anger rising. "You think you're strong now? You think you can just walk away?" "Yes," I said simply, "because I finally remembered who I am. I'm the man who worked day and night. I'm the man who built everything you enjoy. And if I walk out that door, you'll be left with nothing but your own cruelty echoing back at you." Her lips parted, but no words came. For once she had nothing to say. I slung the jacket over my shoulder, picked up the envelope and turned toward the door. My heart pounded, but my steps were steady. She called after me, her voice breaking, the arrogance slipping from her tone. "You'll regret this." I paused at the doorway, my hand on the frame. I looked back just once. "No. The only regret I have is giving you the power to call me useless. But never again." And then I walked out. The night air hit me like a wave, cold, sharp, alive. I felt the chains fall with every step I took away from that house, from her laughter, from years of humiliation. My eyes stung, but they weren't tears of weakness. They were tears of freedom. For the first time in years, I breathed without her voice in my ears. For the first time I felt the ground under my feet was my own. She thought she had broken me. She thought her cruelty had made me small. But she was wrong. Because the cruel wife hadn't destroyed me. She had awakened me.